This is WCCX 104.5 FM in Waukesha, and this is D&D with B&D, saying a lot to nobody. Today, Brad Weller and I, Drew Sherrod, are back to talk about Dungeons & Dragons once more with all of you lovely nobody. That's the name of our audience, our friend here. We have a guest today.
We have a guest?
Miss Zoe McBride.
Hello there.
Yeah, we have a guest today because today we are coming back to you with all of the culmination of everything we've talked about so far to create a character with you guys. We're going to create a D&D character that you can play in your own world. As you've already heard from us in the past, our first couple of shows have been dealing with creating and telling you about the stuff you need to know as a new player for creating a character, such as we've talked about the ability scores, we've talked about races and classes, and today we are actually building a character together. Starting in the future, we are going to be doing more DM-focused stuff. But we'll get to that at the end of this show. So today, we're going to be starting by creating our character. And Zoe is here to create a character for us as we go along and explain the character creation process.
Do you think we should also introduce ourselves before we continue this chaos?
We did, but all right.
My name
is Drew Sherrod. I'm a senior at Carroll University. I am a religious studies major with a theater minor. And I'm a nerd. Bradley.
I'm Brad. That's my name. I am a sophomore, and I have a double major of theater and music with a minor in arts management. And I am insane. And then Zoe, would you like to introduce yourself?
I am Zoe McBride. I'm a sophomore at Keller University, and I'm an elementary education and special ed major. And I'm kind of no one.
That is not true. Let's take a minute here to convince Zoe that they matter. Now, Zoe, you are important and loved by many.
I'm a nerd.
Thank you.
Perfect.
That is acceptable. Yes. We would like to apologize, by the way, for the not being here for a while. The last time we had the opportunity, we just had a lot of things going on with a play that Brad and I were both in, and then last week was Thanksgiving weekend. So, I don't know if you can sing that.
It was under 15 seconds.
Okay.
Not breaking copyright.
All right, so now we're going to go through a process of creating a character. Now there are many sites out there to help you create.
I've used a handful.
Character for yourself for either 3.5 or 5e. We will be mostly focusing on creating a 5e character today because it's a quicker process for us to do right here in the booth, and there's not a really easy build site for it. But we will also be going over a few of the brief changes that 3.5 has compared to this one. So, how we start creating a character is we need to choose a race. Now, last week we talked about a number of different races, and today Zoe is going to be choosing a wonderful race from all of the options we gave everyone last week. By the way, Zoe, our audience's name is Nobody, so that way when we say that we're broadcasting to nobody, it's true either way. Either we're broadcasting to the audience whose name is Nobody, or we're actually broadcasting to nobody. So we can never be wrong. So
can never be wrong in this.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm left.
All right, so we're going to be choosing the race. There are a couple races here that we didn't discuss last week. Hopefully, Zoe does not choose one of them and confuse us all.
Please don't.
So, Zoe, please choose a race. And discuss with us what your thought process is in choosing what you choose.
Well, what I'm going to go with is...
There's a lot of races.
There are, and not knowing what you didn't talk about last week.
Yeah. There's often a lot of races to choose from. It's not an easy process to create a character. At least we're trying to do. This is going to be a far quicker version than probably you are going to spend in your character creation.
Yes.
How long would you say character creation usually takes?
It depends. The backstory is the thing that really gets you, but. Sure.
So what the race I am picking is an Aasimar.
Yeah, that's definitely how you pronounce it.
Yeah, in the summer.
How we pronounced it last week, which we could actually be wrong, is Aasimar.
An Aasimar.
But I'm pretty sure I've always heard Aasimar.
I think that was the only one that I played the soundbite for.
Yeah. So it's definitely Aasimar then.
Well, thank you for correcting my pronunciation.
Yep.
And Aasimar.
Yes.
Perfect.
Fantasy names. Gotta love them. So, Aasimar, to remind people back home who do not have excessive
free
convulsions.
Time to listen to all of our shows. An Aasimar is essentially the celestial race.
Yes. They were born of mortals, but they were blessed by a god or something.
And like any good emo, Zoe here is looking at the fallen Aasimar, which is essentially the Aasimar that is an angel, but
they were tempted by evil beings.
Tempted by evil beings, or at least their ancestors were, or something like that.
No, they were originally made good, and then they made some shady.
Yeah, but their race as a whole was like you can be born into fallen Aasimar and not technically have been tempted yourself.
Yes.
As far as I'm aware, anyway. Because I know I watch a show, Critical Role. I can say that I watch a show where I'm pretty sure the fallen Aasimar in the show right now was just born of fallen Aasimar. I could be wrong.
Sounds like some good world building, in my own opinion.
But yeah, so the fallen Aasimar. So for every race, you get a lot of special abilities along with the ability score changes. Most races have ability score changes. In 5e, it simplifies most of them to just an increase in something.
Yes.
In 3.5, you get an increase and decrease to kind of have
display
a
strengths of weaknesses
in total. For most things. Actually, like mainstream 3.5 might have minuses or pluses that go above or below 0. In my game world, I made them all equal, so they all equal out to 0.
Yes.
But the fallen Aasimar gains a charisma bonus of 2 to whatever you roll for your charisma. So is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Sorry. All right. Good. I'm glad you're sticking to it.
And some other traits that Aasimar possess is they are resistant to radiant and necrotic damage, to various types of damage, being
and
slightly godly.
Most of them at 3rd level get an ability where they can sprout angels and have some sort of aura effect.
Yes. Fallen Aasimar have spectral wings, and they are very spoopy.
Right. Because they're, like skeleton angel wings.
Edgelords.
Go back to race for a moment, and so because we need to talk about name. Now, name is usually chosen. Well, it's sometimes chosen based on the race you choose because you're choosing it based on kind of the culture that you come from or the background that you come from. But you can also just make it whatever you want it to. I usually for NPCs I usually kind of link it to the race, but for player characters, it can be all over the place in how I use them.
In my own personal experience, for making more fleshed out characters, I typically do a translation from another language, or I just reference something that already exists.
I do that often too. Unfortunately, sometimes I look up other languages that match the character and the word that matches the character, and then the thing I come out with is lame. The word, like you remember Thymos, the bad guy of the Thunder Tyrant?
I kept on thinking his name was Thanos.
I looked up the Greek word for wrath, and it was Ira, and I was like, I'm not making a cloud storm giant hybrid named Ira. It's just Thymos was better, which that is also kind of wrath in Greek. I can't remember It's rage in Greek or something equivalent to
It's Greek to me.
yeah. All right. So, what is the name that you've come up with already for your character here, Zoe?
So the name I've come up with is Gray Asino, kind of going off of gray, a pale skinish, dark, and Asino is kind of just a name that kind of came out of nowhere.
Asino?
Yes.
It's a good name. I had a character recently. Sometimes you can make really good names out of really just random sounds. Like I have Veritas. I can't remember the last name I had for him, but he's a College of Whispers bard that I'm going to use eventually in a campaign from Brad. I am listening, Rory. Calm down. My brother is texting us right now through our...
No. Our audience is nobody.
Yeah, nobody is listening. My bad. Nobody is listening to us right now, and nobody is texting us right now at all. All right, so moving on, we have the class for 5e. You want to move on to class?
Yeah.
My goodness, you're so lazy. All right.
I'm the lazy one, yeah.
All right, so there are actually, technically, with what we have here, there are 12 classes you can choose from. Because, actually, there's not. Brad, for some reason...
It's in the
Blood Fighter or not?
You can.
No,
it's optional when you first begin.
Okay, well, it's not important. It's an additional class that was added from the Critical Role stuff that's happened with the collusion between Critical Role and Wizards of the Coast. But we didn't talk about it last time, so it's not really important to talk about here. So you just
know.
Choose.
Homebrew classes exist. Homebrew is making it on your own accord. There are a lot of homebrew
classes out there. The 5e ones are not as good as some of the 3.5 class ones.
Debatable.
No, you agreed with that one last time, and we talked about it.
So what I'm going to go with is a sorcerer.
All right.
Ooh.
Or it'd be a little magical.
Yes.
Oh, because I don't play many sorcerers.
All right, so what is the difference between a sorcerer, a wizard, and a warlock? In D&D, Zoe.
That one I can't tell you, actually.
You didn't listen to our podcast?
In earlier editions, the answer is basically nothing. But in these editions, they do have some mechanical differences. In 5th edition, they do have some mechanical differences.
Yes.
Sorcerer and wizard are...
Nope. They're very different, Drew.
Kind of similar.
Nope.
They're similar spell-wise. Nope. They are very similar
As a spelly boy, they are different.
But Warlock is very different spell-wise for 5e. But anyway, Sorcerer is...
So, the way that Sorcerers are different than all the other ones is they use Charisma, the ability to talk to people to cast magic.
It's
because
not different than Warlocks.
It's not different than Warlocks, but it's different than Wizard. Mm-hmm. Sorcerers are more akin to Wizards. Also, sorcerers can manipulate their spells more so than wizards can, but they have a smaller amount of spells.
Sort of.
Yes.
They start with the same amount of spells.
But then they have less.
But then wizards can gain more spells by getting more spells as they go along, which we explained this in our class as Classes 1. So we're just kind of explaining it to you. So, as a wizard, you get some proficiencies there.
As a sorcerer.
As a sorcerer, right? I prefer wizards, so you get some proficiencies there. Amazing. It looks like. So again, we talked about skills in our ability score or topic. The proficiencies he's choosing are for different skill types. So you have the option of Arcana, Deception, Insight, Intimidation, Persuasion, and Religion. You can find the information of what proficiencies you would gain for your class on any sort of wiki for 5e. There, just look up D&D 5e Sorcerer or any of the other classes we've talked about, or just look up D&D 5e classes, and you can find all this information, and it'll explain what proficiencies you gain. You also gain special abilities that you can just put into your system. Again, there are web building systems out there. We can't really name them here because that's advertising for other sites, but they're easy to find. So just
do a quick Google search and they will pop right up.
Yeah. But it looks like you've chosen Arcana. and you've chosen Persuasion for
Yeah.
Gray Asensio. Is that
Yes.
his name? Okay, cool. Or
Persuasion.
is Gray a he or she?
Gray is a she.
Okay,
All right.
Gray Asensio.
But
Is it Asensio or Asenio?
Asensio.
Asensio. Okay.
All right.
But Persuasion, because going along with it, sorcerers, as Drew said, had rely on Charisma, and the race I actually chose has a +2 to the Charisma already. So moving with that kind of, choosing Persuasion, and it's also very useful when I find it. It can actually be used quite nicely. And Arcana, just because Arcana is, in my opinion, a little better than Insight.
Okay. Sure.
Agree to disagree, but
We have our own preferences.
for a sorcerer, sure, I would agree with that. So then,
So
Now-
sorcerers are weird, as in first level they choose like since sorcerers
Their
get their
archetype.
magic through their like blood and
Yeah, their
ancestry
bloodline.
or random stuff.
so like we talked about in our class thing, all the different classes have different archetypes, which kind of replace the prestige class system from 3.5. And also honestly replaced a lot of the additional race classes that you could add on as well. So with 5e, you get to choose is a different archetype, and different classes do so at different levels. Most of the arcane casters choose their archetype at first level, except for wizard chooses it at second.
Yes. But it is more rare for archetypes to choose subclasses at first level.
Yeah, it is pretty rare. So sorcerer does choose it at first level. They choose their sorceress origin, which is their bloodline. So you can choose. We talked about a lot of these last time, but there's Phoenix, Divine, Demon, Shadow, Storm, Stone, Sea. It looks like
Wild.
you don't have a lot of options there. You must not have the expansions hooked up
Oh
all
darn.
the way. But that's okay. These are still good. And
These are
this
still
is
some.
This is only an example today anyway. So you have the choice of Divine Soul, which is the angelic build, Draconic Bloodline, Shadow Magic, Storm Sorcery, or Wild Magic.
Can I just say something about Divine Soul? They're not always good. You can have evil divine.
Yeah, you can. Give me anything you want.
So, we're gonna go with the Storm Sorcery.
Okay.
Ooh.
I don't know anything about Storm Sorcery.
I do. I just actually read upon them last night.
Nice.
Right. Randomly.
Oh, that's convenient.
Yeah, they
Alright,
can
cool.
they can fly. They can have other friends fly.
Now, with every class, you get relevant skills, and how that works in 5e is your proficiency automatically updates depending on the sheet you're using. Sometimes, depending on the sheet you're using, you might have to update it yourself. But in 3.5, how skill points work is you have skills that are your class skills, and for those skills, and you can add skill points into any of your skills. For the ones that are class skills, when you add a skill point, you get 1 rank in that skill. If you add it into a class skill that you're not, or a skill that is not a class skill, then you get only half a rank in that skill. Which I very much prefer that system to 5e's because it allows for people to change throughout time as a real human being would, and decide, I don't really want to take that path anymore. Whereas in 5e, you essentially choose the things you're good at, and those stick forever. And you can't really change that about your character anywhere down the line. The 3.5 system is a little complex in some ways with the half-point system. I don't know why they didn't just do 2 points if you have a class skill and 1 if you don't, but still, I would say still a better system.
Drew, in our homebrew campaign, I have a skill modifier of +20.
Yeah.
You have
but
a very high
the
one.
problem with if that's the problem is I say that, but I can't just change it to be 2 skill points and 1 skill point because then
Yes.
I have to change the DCs of everything in the world.
That would be a
And that
time.
would be a painful
Math
process.
is hard,
So,
everybody. Math is
yeah.
hard.
So then, with this class, you also get spells. So you actually have to go back to your class. Well, we don't really have to do that for this breakdown of things, but just look at it real quick. Go to spells. So you're starting at first level for this purposes of this, and at first level, you gain spells that are 4 cantrips, and your cantrips in 5e are unlimited. In 3.5, they are not unlimited. You just get 4 cantrips, and that's it. Actually, mainstream 3.5, you get like 6 cantrips, and that's it. But
Drew, you've been keeping cantrips out on me.
well, you start with 3 cantrips in mainstream 3.5, and then it expands to 6 eventually.
You're keeping cantrips away from me.
Yeah, I have been. Because there's no point in it.
True. I like
but
my...
anyway, you get 4 cantrips to start with a sorcerer, and you get 2 spells that is going to be different based on the class you're choosing. And there are different ways of spellcasting for all different classes. When we eventually, probably next semester, talk about spells, we will talk about the different kinds of spells and where you start and everything about that. It's complicated in 3.5 or for 5e.
Yes, spells are the most complicated part of D&D.
Yeah.
And meta magic, which sorcerers have later on, make them the most complex class of 5th edition, kind of.
What class?
What sorcerers can become the most complex with how they change their magic.
Oh, I see.
It's a time. They can also be the most broken.
All right. So, also with class, before we move on, go up for me, Zoe.
No problem.
I almost called you Reed for some reason. I did.
For some
That's true.
reason.
All right.
So for your manage HP, for first level in 5e, it automatically gives you the highest amount. So just type in. It's actually fixed for you. So different classes get a different hit dice. So you roll a different set of dice for your HP. So, for instance, for a sorcerer, you roll a die 6. Then there's a die 8 for, like, rogue and bard. And the die 10 for ranger and...
paladin. Fighter.
And then die 12 for fighter and barbarian.
Only barbarian.
Only barbarian?
Only barbarian.
Barbarian, then.
Swole boy.
So, all of these different dices... so die 12 and stuff like that means just the dice that you're going to use and how many sides are on the dice. In 3.5, that's scaled down a bit, where spellcasting classes are die 4s, rogues and bards are die 6s, rangers and paladins are die 8, fighters are die 10, and barbarian is still die 12. But for 3.5, you still roll for your HP at first level, which I prefer. But 5e is more built for what's the word I'm thinking of? It's a better system for when you're first starting out. So it's
easier to access.
To give people maximum health at first level. Though you could also ignore that rule if you want.
You can. Except then everyone would just simply die.
That's untrue.
In my campaign.
By our campaign, where it took many, many games before someone died.
See, but Drew, you haven't been in mine.
I have been, and I think we would have been fine. But anyway, moving on.
Aside.
Let's see. Anything else for class? We talked about special abilities. We talked about proficiencies and skills and hit points and spells. So moving on to our ability scores. Now in 3.5, you would usually choose your class and race, and then do your ability scores, and then go back and do your special abilities and skills and stuff for the class. But we're jumping around a little bit. You can do this in
this is what
order if you want to.
This is what the player handbook recommends for 5e. For some reason, I'm not the biggest fan of this order, but we're just sticking to it for simplicity's sake.
Right. So, there are many different ways to roll your ability scores. There's the roll 3 die 6, and then you take the 3d6, which each one has 6 sides, and you add them together, and that is one ability score. There is also the point buy system, which I'm not sure what the exact parameters or ruling on
But
point buy system
basically
is, but it's not good.
It is good.
What?
I like it. But anyways, basically you can buy points to have higher and lower points. There's also a standard array system, in which case you're given
Also, that's
a set.
not true, Brad. You keep saying these things that you like, which you've clearly stated to me in the past that you dislike.
I changed my opinion a lot.
Apparently.
A lot.
Yeah.
So, along with point buy, which point buy doesn't get you
It's
too
kind of like
great
the
high.
Fallout system.
Yes.
If you've ever played the Fallout games,
Welcome to the Fallout,
can
baby.
kind of decrease one stat to increase another stat, and so forth. It's not as random as real life would be,
Yes.
but
Yes.
it's a simpler system if you really want to use it.
And an even simpler system is a standard array, which you're given a set of values, which are 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, and 15.
Yeah, I hate that one.
Yeah, it's really nice if you don't have like die on hand, or you just want to make a simplistic NPC, or if you're in a real rush.
The way that we usually do it, Brad and I, is we do the 4x6 system, where you roll 4x6, and then you can choose one of those dice and minus it from the score.
Basically, most of the time,
Most of the time you choose the 3 best.
and use
number,
those.
And use those. But if you want a stat that is lower, you can always choose another dice and take it out. Because sometimes you want to role play a character with a lower stat. And that's really cool.
It's a fun time.
Done that once, I think, where I didn't take a high number so that I could have a low O number for something.
I did that for my current character.
Did you? I thought you actually got good.
Nope.
Got those on purpose or on the basic system, but
I think the worst score I chose.
okay,
You play it well,
Yeah.
though.
Yes.
you do. Yeah, it is a great character.
I play
Simple Jeff.
6 wisdom. Pretty
Oh my.
well.
So you roll 4 dice 6, and you're only supposed to use 3 of those dice 6, so you minus one of those out of the total score. Now, some people, I've only learned this recently, but some people do it where you roll your first stat, and your first stat is strength.
Oh, that's
Like, you
disgusting.
do it in order.
No.
Like, you don't get to choose which stat goes to
Oh,
which
my.
thing. And I'm like,
You could
No!
get really bad
you would
numbers
never
on
know
that.
what you're going for, or what you're gonna get.
I mean, if you want like a crazy character, just because.
That's insane, though. So what we're saying is, how we do it, and how normal human beings do it, is you roll all your 6 stats, and then you choose which ones to put onto which ability. So, like strength, dexterity. If you're trying to make a rogue, you put it more into dexterity and probably intelligence as well. You kind of know ahead of time what you're trying to get it. It might not work out still, but you at least know kind of where you're aiming for. But the way I've seen recently, some people do it where you just roll a stat, and the first stat that's in the book is strength. Your first roll of 4 dice 6, minusing 1, that's your strength stat. You can't move it to anything else. And then your next roll is for your dexterity, and your next roll is for constitution, and so on and so on. And that's just your stats. You don't get to move them. And that's insane.
It is.
Could end up trying to build a rogue like you said and just have terrible decks.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can't plan ahead at all. You can't really build and I know a lot of people try to build a team of characters to be together, and that just like a team that is balanced together, which I'm usually not for, because most close teams, the DM will make the world and build it so it works for the team, even if you have 4 rogues on a team or 7 healer.
That sounds beautiful.
the DM will build it so that it still
7
works
clerics.
for your campaign. But I
That's an
know if
actual
you're
campaign.
trying to build for a balanced team, that just doesn't work if you're just taking the scores as they come. But yeah, it's silly. I only saw that recently. I can't remember where I saw that. The site I saw that it. I'm subscribed to them for some reason. But
Oof.
but anyway, so then you are going to need to roll your stats here, Zoe. So let's
do
see
you think-
roll your
well,
stats. Unfortunately for us, Zoe was woefully unprepared for this and does not have 4d6 with her
Now,
today.
just so you know, we do have 3 dice 6, except... Well, let's not.
Yeah, so instead we're going to just do it via an online dice roller system.
Yes.
So Zoe, if you want to take this and roll your stats.
Should we have
Alright.
someone...
You can put them, I don't know, you can just write it on the back of my homework here.
No, I have a thing.
Okay,
So
so
we
just
just
call
completed.
out your stats as they come up, Zoe.
Alright, so the first roll of 4d6 is a 22. 2 6s and 2
Wait,
5s.
Wait, no, you have to
You're
get rid of
minusing
one.
Zoe, please.
Hold on.
22 is not
That's
allowed.
a 17. That's still a
That's
really
a
good roll.
17.
17. It's nice.
Alright.
No, don't reset it. You just re-roll it. Now you have to type in 4 again. Okay, that's a
14.
14. Still a solid.
Yep, that is 13.
13.
Yeah, it's 13.
Crossing that out.
Math is hard, okay?
Math is hard.
It's really not in this case.
Math is hard.
It's a 10.
10.
The third one.
All right.
That's a 13 for the fourth one. Man, this is getting to be a better character than the one you're going to be using for our main game.
Yeah, and you made me roll twice on that one.
Yeah.
I kind of want to just play this one now.
Well,
I gave you a second chance. 14 on the fifth roll. And 11.
all
It's
right.
Still better than my character.
All right.
It's much, much better. No.
Thank you.
Just have a little. What even did we
All
take
right,
this from?
so-
We took this from a calendar thing. Like,
How you doing this? Zoe?
Well,
Because you got... So, for a sorcerer, you want to put charisma as your... Well, you could put your charisma as your highest, as that is your spellcasting stat.
and it would make all
I
your
know
spells
that
better.
Sorcerers also have a good Constitution save, so Constitution might be a good one as well.
But then it might not fully matter. It's
It's
okay.
No, I'm just going through
Yeah,
it. I'm
yeah,
not
yeah,
saying
yeah.
she has to do this.
Yeah.
I do.
Intelligence, not necessarily important for a sorcerer.
But it could-
Wisdom might be good just for negating spell effects against you.
Theoretically, yeah. Dexterity is always
Oh,
good.
do I
Gets
go-
you some more
Wait
AC.
a minute. Wait a minute.
Just type in manual.
Okay, what kind of... Here we go. Standard array.
No,
Or
don't,
manual,
no,
yeah.
manual.
Okay, so yeah, you put them in up there. And then it will change them
Yes.
as according...
Putting
and you do
higher.
not have to put the +2 into charisma up here.
It automatically
It will
does
do
it.
that down there.
I figured it would.
Yes.
Yep.
Putting a higher score into dexterity is good to just get the AC up a little bit if you don't have armor, as
Yep.
most spellcasters
It's good.
don't have. Strength. If you ever want to
Not-
punch something,
If you want to punch
Super
something as a
important.
sorcerer, I'm going to be a little surprised sometimes, but
but like
You're a
multi-classing.
storm sorcerer, though.
very true, though.
Storm sorcerers don't really punch things; they just have lightning radiating from them. It's
Yeah,
pretty
but
great.
they should punch things.
But no, that's a whole barbarian subclass that has the storm with them, though, and also a cleric subclass that is actually one of the higher power clerics
The
subclasses.
Tempest class?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's good.
pretty good. Yes, just I mean,
All right, you got your stats there?
Yep.
All right, so you got a 13 in strength, a 13 in dexterity, a 17 in constitution, a 10 in intelligence, an 11 in wisdom, and a 16 in charisma. Now, none of those give a negative stat, so that's a pretty good character.
You know, my intelligence always seems to be the lowest score I have, though, for some reason.
Yeah.
Just noticing.
Yep.
Yep.
That is okay, though, for this character.
That's good.
So then... erase that. You look at your total.
Yeah, I looked at that.
Okay. Total
What?
score of 26 charisma for a second there. So go to the next page. So then we have the description to talk about.
Oh dear.
So there are a couple of things for description. So 5e offers a background for your character, which I am not really a fan of the background system because it tends to pigeonhole new players into going... Like, there are a number of different backgrounds you can choose, which are just like sailor and all of this, and like harlequin, stuff like that. And they kind of pigeonhole characters in their backstories of how they write them based on what they read from the background thing. But they do give little bonuses, which are kind of cool. They're more like roleplay bonuses. Like sailor, you can always find passage on a ship, no matter what, essentially.
Yeah, the things I like about the backgrounds is they always give a social advantage.
Yeah, they give cool social things. I just, from what they sound like, they were kind of introduced as a means of trying to get players to kind of have a basis for their backstory, which I don't think is necessary, even for new players. New players are more clever than you give them credit for. If you just give them a few options, they can come up with something without having to have some sort of... I don't know what the word I'm looking for is.
Hand-holding, or?
Yeah. It seems a little hand-holdy for me. But it is cool for the actual mechanics it gives you. So anyway, yeah, you can choose an option for
Gray.
Essential.
All right, we'll start with alignment.
Well, I mean, the background is there.
Oh.
The background.
Well, there it is.
Yeah.
You have a lot of options.
And it gives... Some of them give you, like, languages, extra languages as well.
Oh, yeah. Like more talking ones, like being a...
Yeah. Like mine for
courier?
my character, Ollie, in our next game, gave me languages. It was the Sage background.
Sage. And you can always find out where information for anything would be located with Sage.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
It's really
That's
useful.
Right. I can. That's really helpful.
That is really helpful, especially when you might do things.
I actually... I kind of hate that I took that now, because that one's almost like anti-DM stuff.
Drew. Just because you know where the information is doesn't mean you can get to it.
That's fair.
Hardest finds information anywhere.
The Scholar, on the other hand, gets you free access into most libraries. But
all right, so you've taken the Entertainer background, which means...
That means that they can get like free housing by performing at various like taverns, inns, nobles.
Nice. That's nice.
It is nice, and
you
then
get to choose a musical instrument too.
Yeah, what do you play, you fancy magic?
I, being the Scottish person I am going to play the bagpipes.
Of course.
Every time.
The fallen angel bagpiper.
All of my players choose the bagpipes. Every single one, except the bard.
So, we're going to ignore suggested characteristics and flaws and personality things because those are even more pigeonholed.
Yeah, let's not... I'll pass on those. I like creating...
To explain, 5e also gives you a lot of personality traits that you can choose from that are like... Some of them, it even gives an option of like rolling for them, right?
Yes.
And just giving yourself flaws and personality traits.
Yes.
It's like... It takes so much away from the experience of actually creating a character.
That it does. But if you don't know what you're doing...
I mean, those are all things that you don't have to use in your game, of course. But still, if it's there, most new players are going to be like, we need to use them. Which you do not, just so you know, going into things. Unless your DM says you have to, in which case, if I were you, I would argue with them. But
I just want to... I just want to have people have like some written idea what their character,
Right.
how they're going to act.
So,
and roleplay.
there are a lot of different alignments in D&D, and these range from chaotic to lawful, which is just like, do you obey the law or not, and good to evil. So, what's your Fallen Aasimar going to be?
So, my Fallen Aasimar is going to be a chaotic, neutral character.
Okay, so that's... Just do whatever you want, alignment. Now, we won't really talk about faith today because that's a whole... Alignment,
Oh,
by the
dear.
way, alignment is something that we'll talk about in more depth in a future
It
show,
will be.
because that
It will
can
be.
be a whole show in itself. In fact,
It
each
will
alignment
be.
could probably be their own show in themselves.
But we're not going to today.
Faith will also be something we talk about, though that will be a little more complex to talk about. So, yeah, we won't talk about Faith. You can just put like Raven Queen or something, or some,
Hey!
or flying spaghetti monster, or something.
Pastafarian. Pastafarian.
All right, cool. Lifestyle? What is lifestyle? I don't know what that is.
Well, I don't even remember what it's under, actually.
What is it's in.
Oh,
Sorry
it's
for
just
details.
how much money, how like.
Oh yeah, don't worry about that right now.
Don't
That's
really
not
worry
important.
about it. It's like how much do you prefer to live on? Like how
Right.
expensive are you?
You also get languages that are usually chosen by your race, that will be listed somewhere in races
Wait, what?
in the books, I guess. Your optional languages? I don't know about
They don't
5e.
have optional languages in 5e. Races come with them automatically. You get more
There
languages.
are some things. There are some backgrounds that give you extra languages.
Yes,
and
there are.
other things that give you extra
like
languages
more
as well,
scholarly ones.
though. Like I think some of the bloodlines give you language, don't they?
Like
Of
the
sorcerer?
storm one gives you primordial.
Weird.
Dragon gives you draconic.
Orin?
What? Primordial has Orin as one of its dialects.
Oh, interesting.
It is
Okay.
interesting.
Cool. So then you have to choose your equipment, which is very easy. It
Yes.
usually gives you a starting weapon in the book for starting out. Otherwise, if you're not starting at first level, there is a table somewhere in the book or you can find it online. There are a lot of different places online where it gives you the gold amount that you would have, and you can choose magic items and stuff that you find from the game based on the amount of money you have. So yeah, you don't have to do this right now. Just move on from this right now. Now, there are other things as well that need to be talked about. There are feats. Now, feats you get at 4th level, well, can get at 4th level, every 4th level in 5e. In 3.5, you start with a feat and get them every 3rd level as well. And feats are just extra added things, and we'll talk about feats another time someday. But extra added things that you can get to more diversify your character. They're hard to explain. In 4e, in 5e, they're fairly defined, and they all are kind of equal to one another. 3.5, I would say they're not equal to each other, but there's way more options, and there's a lot more customization with them.
Yes.
And you get more of them in 3.5.
But 5e, the feats are a little bit stronger compared singularly.
They are stronger. The deficit of 5e, though, is you either
You get a lot.
a feat or you can choose to upgrade your ability scores, where in 3.5 you can do both at different times. You get to upgrade your ability scores at every 4th level while getting feats at every 3rd level. Whereas in 4... Why do we keep saying 40? Whereas in 5e, you just get to choose to increase ability scores at every 4th level or take a feat at every 4th level. And you don't start with a feat unless you're a human. Right.
Variance.
Right. Also, then, I guess we talked about backgrounds already. But yeah, background is a thing in 5e, which is not a thing in 3.5, at least to the same extent. And then there are saves as well. Now in 3.5, there are only 3 kinds of saves that are will saves, fortitude saves, and reflex saves. And those are affected by wisdom, constitution, and dexterity in that same order. And those are just like things to avoid, like spells and different effects that it doesn't rely on just you dodging the attack. In 5e, you have a different type of save for every ability score.
Yep.
Which makes things a little more weird.
Yeah, we talked about it on one of the previous shows.
Right. But in 5e and in 3.5, your ability scores get advanced with every level. Well, not every level, but they get advanced as you continue to level up based on a certain parameter.
Yes.
Depending on the sheet you're using, you probably won't have to change that. But if you do, it's easy to find the information by just looking up Wizard 3.5 or Barbarian 5e.
And it is dependent on class.
Yes, it's dependent on class as well. So is your base attack bonus or proficiency in 5e, which is just your bonus to attacking things.
With specific weapons or armor or
right.
all the shenanigans.
So this is actually a fairly short one today. That's all that we have about creating our character today. We have our lovely character, Gray Asensio, built. He's pretty good. She's pretty good.
Surprisingly, actually.
Do you think we could maybe think about some possible backstories that we would make for this character?
Oh, right. That's what I meant when I wrote background.
Yeah.
Here. Is like... what do you think Gray Asensio's backstory is? Based on being an entertainer, bagpiping, fallen angel.
That has, like, storm, kind of Daijin blood.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
Blood.
Quite sure. What I was saying for a backstory...
I was just correcting Brad. It's Jin blood.
I don't know how to say words sometimes.
Words are hard, buddy.
Math is hard.
Yes, it is. But what I was thinking was I'm going to say it wrong.
Kishin?
No, Simar.
Asimar?
Asima? Thank you. My Asima Gray. Hey, basically growing up in the city, actually.
Okay.
Hey, and actually going to a college. And as Drew said before, actually being born just a fallen.
So this is not a character... This is not the standard character that's parents are dead and everything.
No.
Oh, wow.
What?
Parents are still alive.
You can make characters that have parents that are alive? That's an option?
You can make characters that have a happy story?
No, I never said happy.
Oh, okay.
Where does it go dark?
I don't know.
All right.
We'd make it unhappy somehow.
So one fun thing about sorcerers is kind of like in the Last Airbender, one fun thing about them is finding out when they can use magical abilities as like a starting event, and sometimes they call them more as a curse or a blessing, and just find those elements very fun.
Yeah. I've never played a sorcerer. I'm playing a wizard soon, but really I've never played any spellcasting classes before Ollie, at least not as a player character. Obviously I've played NPCs as a DM. Oh man, Brad, and you, Zoe, there's a spellcaster coming up in the main game.
Spoilers.
It's pretty great.
Am I gonna die again?
Maybe, because it's Centile. But
why do you do this?
But anyway, it just references to our home game. So now, going forward, we had said that we would have a number of episodes this season, sort of, devoted to Dungeon Master stuff. Unfortunately, how things have worked out and based on how we sort of miscalculated
how I forgot how to count
the number of
days
we'd have. We've had to cut down on them, at least for this season. We will go back and do the other things we had talked about at a later time. But for now, we have 3 shows left, as far as we're aware.
Yes.
And those shows will still be devoted to 3 of the things we talked about before. So next show, we will be talking about the different editions of Dungeons & Dragons. And that does not mean just 3.5 and 5e. We're going to be talking about all of them.
I have no idea what the rest of them are.
Yeah, we're going to learn, Brad.
I'm going to learn. I'm going to read.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about the different editions and how they differ from one another, and why 3.5 is better than 5e. And then this week we are going to be talking about dungeons, which is going to be very interesting. I don't know what we're going to talk about yet, because honestly, I do a lot of my combat and situations out in the open. I haven't done a lot of dungeons in my main game, so it's going to be interesting to talk about dungeons when I have very little experience as a DM doing dungeons.
I've read so much about dungeons.
Yeah.
5e is obsessed about them.
And then, to cap it all off, as the game is called, Dungeons & Dragons, our last show for this season, we'll be talking about the lovely dragons, or i.e. the true dragons of D&D. For our last session. So we will be talking about the 10 different kinds of dragons, all 5 metallics and all 5 chromatic dragons, and how they are all awesome in their own right.
Yes.
And why dragons in D&D are honestly probably one of the best mediums of dragons in existence, because they're just so overpowered and have so much open stuff that they can do. I can't word today. They have so many
there's so much
many
versatility
for them to open up to. Yeah, I can't talk. Sure.
Anyways, we're actually,
but yeah, they are not Skyrim and pussy dragons, so to speak.
I mean, yours might not be.
Was, pretty bad.
Mine might be.
Yeah, sure.
But anyways,
just come down, hit, fly away, and you just wait for a while until he comes back again.
No, you just use bow and arrow.
That's true.
You do what I do. You take him out with one shot. Sneak attack.
Snake attack. Yep, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, but
no.
D&D dragons are much more powerful.
Yes.
We'll talk about that.
And to break the illusion,
but eventually.
To break the illusion, this is like the first time we're ending on time.
Yeah, we are signing out, and this is D&D
with B&D, saying a lot to nobody.
And this is WCCX Waukesha 104.5 FM. Back to your regularly scheduled random music.